history, humanity has been guided by belief. Belief in gods, nations, leaders, and truth itself. Yet what happens when belief becomes a weapon? When the very fabric of faith and perception is manipulated not by divine hands, but by human ambition and technological mastery? Today we confront a theory shrouded in mystery, fear, and fascination. Project Bluebeam. Many call it the greatest illusion ever conceived, a plan to reshape belief, unite the world under one vision, and erase the line between reality and deception. Throughout the centuries, humanity has been guided by wonders. Miracles in the sky, divine voices in the wind, and mysterious signs that shape the course of civilizations. But what if the wonders of tomorrow are not born of heaven, but of human hands? The power of technological illusion is a concept that forces us to confront an unsettling truth. The line between divine revelation and human manipulation has grown dangerously thin. In the ancient world, kings and priests ruled through awe. They controlled knowledge of the stars, the eclipses, and the floods, turning natural phenomena into symbols of divine favor or wrath. When the people saw lightning strike or heard thunder roar, they believed their gods had spoken. This power, the ability to define what others see and believe, has always been the true foundation of control. Today, that same principle has evolved beyond myth and superstition. It has become digital, scientific, and weaponized. With the rise of satellites, holography, and mind-altering technologies, humanity now possesses the tools to fabricate entire realities. It is said that Project Bluebeam embodies this very possibility, an operation capable of projecting three-dimensional holographic images across the sky, synchronized with sound and psychological frequencies that could influence thought itself. Imagine entire cities gazing upward, witnessing what seems to be an otherworldly presence, a savior descending from the heavens, a deity speaking to each culture in its own sacred tongue. Each person in every nation seeing a tailored vision that aligns with their deepest beliefs. Such an event would not only blur the boundary between faith and illusion, it would erase it entirely. The implications are staggering. The technology that can create false miracles could command the loyalty, fear, and obedience of billions without firing a single weapon. Wars fought for ideology could be replaced by a single manufactured faith. One that serves not the divine, but those who control the illusion. The danger of such power is not limited to the technology itself, but to the blindness it can produce in society. Humanity, fascinated by spectacle and hungry for meaning, can easily mistake manipulation for revelation. When the skies light up and the impossible appears before our eyes, will we question its source, or will we, like our ancestors, fall to our knees and worship what we do not understand? In this age of hyper-technology, truth no longer hides in mystery. It hides in plain sight, buried beneath the noise of information and illusion. The ability to deceive entire populations no longer requires faith, only innovation. When technology becomes capable of shaping the human soul, belief becomes the ultimate battlefield. The power of technological illusion is more than a warning, it is a mirror held up to our time. It asks us to see beyond the images, beyond the spectacle, and to recognize that the greatest illusion of all is not the one that fills the sky. It is the one that convinces us to stop asking who put it there. In every age, power has evolved, from swords to cannons, from bombs to bytes. Yet no weapon has ever proven more effective than the manipulation of the human mind. The era of psychological warfare is not defined by battlefields drenched in blood, but by invisible wars fought within perception, belief, and consciousness itself. The greatest conquest is not of land or empire, but of thought. As the 20th century dawned, new sciences emerged: psychology, propaganda, behavioral conditioning, and they transformed how nations fought and ruled. Governments realized that if they could shape what people believed, they could control what people did. Wars were no longer won by might alone, but by mastery over information and emotion. This was the birth of psychological warfare, the subtle art of turning truth into an instrument of control. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the battlefield had shifted entirely. Mass media, satellites, and digital networks became the new arsenals. With them came unprecedented power, the ability to control narratives, to distort facts, to plant ideas deep in the public mind. Fear became a weapon, distraction a strategy, and disinformation a shield. People were no longer simply told what to believe, they were conditioned to believe it. Within this vast network of psychological manipulation, Project Bluebeam is often described as the ultimate evolution. A global illusion designed not merely to deceive the eyes, but to command the human spirit. If an entire population can be made to see the same vision, to feel the same fear, to believe in the same savior or threat, then resistance becomes almost impossible. Control is achieved not through force, but through belief. Consider the implications. Imagine the sky suddenly alive with brilliant lights and divine figures, each faith seeing its prophesied leader returned. Panic, devotion, and obedience would spread faster than any virus. The people desperate for meaning and unity would turn to those who claim to have the answers, the very architects of the illusion. That is the essence of psychological warfare, to make the victim thank the oppressor, to make control feel like salvation. In such an era, truth becomes the first casualty. The mind becomes the battlefield and fear becomes the weapon that fuels surrender. The architects of illusion understand that when you confuse perception long enough, the masses will cling to any narrative that offers stability, even a false one. And once belief is controlled, freedom itself becomes an illusion. Yet the same history that reveals these tactics also offers hope. Every attempt to manipulate thought has eventually met resistance. From those who dared to think freely, to question the narrative, to see beyond the illusion. The human mind, though fragile, possesses one unbreakable power: awareness. The era of psychological warfare reminds us that the real war of the future will not be fought with weapons of destruction, but with images, words, and frequencies. And in that war, victory will belong not to the most powerful, but to the most awake. For thousands of years, faith has been the foundation upon which civilizations were built. It guided kings, inspired prophets, and gave meaning to both triumph and suffering. Temples, churches, mosques, and sacred texts became sanctuaries of the soul, binding humanity together through shared belief. Yet, as the modern world ascends into an age of artificial intelligence and digital miracles, faith itself faces its greatest test. The fall of traditional faiths is not a story of conquest by armies, but of the quiet erosion of belief through illusion and control. From ancient Egypt to the Roman Empire, rulers understood the power of religion. It united people under a common truth, one that could not be questioned because it was divine. But in the modern era, the divine has competition. Technology now performs what once were called miracles. It heals, it sees, it speaks across oceans, and it even predicts the future. Humanity has begun to transfer its faith from the heavens to the hands of human creation. This shift, though subtle, marks the beginning of a spiritual transformation that could reshape the soul of civilization itself. Project Bluebeam, whether myth or blueprint, is often described as the instrument that will finalize this transformation. It is said to be a plan to dismantle every major religion, replacing them with a single global belief system built upon technology and authority. Imagine for a moment visions appearing in the skies above sacred lands, each faith witnessing its long-awaited Messiah or prophet. Then, just as suddenly, those visions unite, merging into one global image, one message, one command. The old gods fade, and a new order is born. Such an event, even if orchestrated through illusion, could shatter the foundation of faith itself. When believers discover that their sacred revelation was manufactured by man, not bestowed by the divine, doubt would spread like wildfire. Temples might remain standing, but the trust that sustained them would crumble. A humanity stripped of faith becomes a humanity easier to control. For when people no longer look to heaven for guidance, they begin to look to governments, corporations, and systems instead. The fall of traditional faiths is not merely the death of religion, it is the death of individuality and belief. Without spiritual independence, humanity risks becoming spiritually programmed, guided not by conscience but by command. The illusion of unity could mask the reality of obedience. And beneath that obedience lies the greatest danger, a generation that worships not God but the technology that imitates him. Yet history teaches that faith, though challenged, never truly dies. It transforms, adapts, and reawakens in new forms. Every attempt to silence the divine has eventually given rise to deeper spiritual awareness. The fall of traditional faiths is, therefore, not the end, but a warning. It reminds us that true faith is not bound to temples or visions, but to truth itself. And truth, no matter how cleverly hidden behind illusion, will always find a way to rise again. History has always been a struggle between the governed and the governors, between those who seek freedom and those who seek to define it. From emperors who claim divine right to modern regimes that rule through surveillance, the essence of power has never changed. Control the people, and you control the future. Yet the methods of control have evolved beyond chains and crowns. In the modern world, the new order of control is not enforced through visible tyranny, but through invisible influence, a web of technology, information, and illusion that shapes perception itself. Power today no longer needs to shout, it whispers through screens. Nations no longer conquer with armies, but with data. In this new age, every click, every search, every belief becomes a thread in a digital net, one that grows tighter with every act of compliance. What was once achieved by soldiers is now achieved by signals, networks, and narratives. Control has become elegant, quiet, and near absolute. Within this landscape of manipulation, Project Bluebeam is often portrayed as the ultimate symbol of such control. The idea suggests a unifying illusion, a grand spectacle projected across the world's skies, convincing all nations that a global crisis or divine intervention demands collective obedience. Imagine a single event so powerful it collapses national boundaries, erases religious divisions, and convinces billions that salvation lies under one global authority. This is not unity born of understanding, it is obedience born of fear. The architects of such control understand the oldest law of power. When people are afraid, they will surrender their freedom in exchange for safety. History echoes with examples. Empires have risen on promises of protection and order, only to tighten their grip once trust was secured. The same principle, magnified by modern technology, could birth a new kind of empire, one without borders, flags, or visible rulers, yet more pervasive than any that came before.